Silence. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we're going to start our meeting today with a presentation from Stephanie.
Correct. Thanks, everyone.
Can
So,
you just put the mic, I put it the wrong way, closer to you?
this one.
Yeah.
Is this like floating out there?
Yeah. I don't want to break it. Okay, thanks, everyone. So as we head into budget season, which is going to start very soon, I just want to take a closer look at two pieces of our budget. And that's going to be some uncertain revenue and some cost drivers. So we're just going to take a closer look into that. So of course, the surplus is when our revenues are greater than our expenses. In 24-25, we did end in a surplus. I'm going to go kind of through why that might happen. When we budget conservatively because there are several uncertain factors in our budget. And we have some revenues that are unpredictable and some budget areas that can really have a swing. So we had to budget very conservatively for that. Several areas of expense and revenue can have an impact in the budget, really positively or negatively. And as we get into further in the presentation, I can point those out. And of course, many areas of the expense and revenue of our budget is totally out of our control. So there's a lot of things that we don't have a say in it. So we're going to move into those. So the first area I'd like to touch base on is interest. That's the first revenue area. As you can see, from 1920 to 24-25, there really was a big swing in interest revenue. And this is the money that we get back from having our money in the bank accounts. Rates for interest rates are really dependent on the federal funds rate being the biggest piece. Unfortunately, there has already been a cut in the federal funds rate, and we are projected to see 2 more this year. So when the federal funds rate is cut, our interest rates in our bank accounts will be cut. And the rates are also dependent on inflation. So we have our money in a regular bank account, but we also invest in NICLAS, which is a public sector investment pool. And that's where we get those high yields back that gets us these nice interest returns. So you can really see that this is one of those unpredictable, uncertain revenue areas because you can see that 1920, we only received $63,000 because interest rates were low. Look back to 21-22, we only received just a little over $1,000 because there really was no interest rates. But then we, jump into 2022-23, we're a little over $250,000, and then the interest rates climbed even higher. Of course, we're in more of an inflationary period, and we saw returns the past 2 years about $240,000. But the problem with that is, of course, that's a huge swing. When you're looking at that 21-22 level to last year's level, that's over $500,000. So if those rates drop, that's a huge piece of revenue that we won't receive. So for this year, we are projected to receive less from interest than we have the past 2 years. And that, again, is a lot because that federal funds rate, number one, has already been cut and is expected to be cut twice more this year. Another area where we did very well last year, but it's an uncertain revenue, is that refund of prior year's expense. And these can come in a myriad of things, but typically it is health insurance reconciliations from prior years. So last year, as you can see, was a major outlier. Last year in 24-25, we received a little over $600,000 from that refund of prior year expense. But then you can see back to previous years, just the year before, wasn't even $200,000. Most of the years has been around that 250 mark, give or take. But again, 21-22, only $162,000. So again, this is a piece that is uncertain and often unpredictable. Last year, we received health insurance reconciliation refunds from many years ago, about 21-22, 2019-20. So these are from a long time ago, and they were unpredictable, and we didn't know we were going to get them. But they can make, again, a huge swing in our budget and our revenue side, based on what we might get. So the refund of prior year's expense for this year is expected to be more in line with those previous years. Again, that 2024-25 number was really an outlier, as you can see from the last 6 years. Looking at wine and skill tuition, this is another piece that, again, we have no control over, can be uncertain a little bit. So this is the money that Wine and Skill pays to us to send their students to high school or even a special ed class. As you may know, that Wine and Skill is a K-8 district, so they have the ability to choose a few different districts for high school. You'll see that, 1920, we received over $300,000. We had a number of kids that chose Brunswick as their high school. And then there was a few years where, unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of students choosing Tamarack. So you'll see in 2022-23, we only received $55,000 for tuition from Wine and Skill. So that's another area that can really have a big swing for us. I think the district's done a really great job at marketing to come to Tamarack because we've got a lot of great things to offer. And these last 2 years, we have seen an upswing on kids choosing us. And you'll see that currently we have 4 9th graders, 2 10th graders, 4 11th graders, and 1 ungraded student. And just to give you a little more information, that regular education rate that they pay us is set by the state. Again, not something we control. And for special education, it's dependent on their actual services. So whatever services they have, we then bill Wine and Skill. So just some conclusions about those uncertain revenue pieces. And I think this one's the biggest one to take home is that we really would have been in a budget deficit in 24-25 if it were not for those 2 huge uncertain revenue streams, that interest and that refund of prior year's expense. So we are expecting those to be more in line with previous years. Interest rates shouldn't come down that far where we're only going to see a few $1,000s, but they are going to drop. So we really have to monitor that closely when we're looking at fund balance, because if those take a significant drop, that's going to negatively impact us. And of course, again, those should be taken into consideration for planning the budget. We don't want to, over budget on the revenue side, that interest revenue, if we're just not going to receive that money, that'd be silly. So those are things we'll have to look at when we plan the 2026-27 budget. So then looking at some cost drivers, I think one of the big ones is special education. So the costs for special education are really dependent on IEPs, which are based on student needs. And the special education budget can really fluctuate due to the high cost of private and BOCES placements. Outside placements can really have a wide range of cost. Some of them may cost us $60,000, but some are $150,000 to over $200,000 for a residential placement, which we currently do have a student in a residential placement. So this is what we're currently looking at. We have 5 students in a private placement, 5 students in a BOCES placement, and we have 4 students right now that are awaiting outside placement. So that's quite a few students that are at these high cost placements. And of course, if a family comes in and they go to a outside placement, that can have a big impact on our budget, especially if they're going to a placement that is like $150,000. But then again, and on the positive, if a student leaves and they're at a high cost placement, that's going to help our budget, of course, because we won't have to pay for that tuition. And then, of course, with special education, we do receive funds from the federal government in the form of our 611 and 619 grants. Those funding levels have been decreasing slightly every year. And one of the big things that's come up this year, as you may have heard, is federal government and the impact on these funding sources. So that's always something that we have to be aware of, because changes in the federal government could impact the federal grant money that we do get. And this kind of, the numbers kind of give you an idea of our special education costs for the general fund for the last few years. And you can see that it's remained fairly similar, but in 1920, we were almost at 3 million, where we were at that same number in 23, 24. So again, especially those outside placements can have a huge swing on that budget. Health insurance, that's a huge topic for us because the premiums have really exploded over the last few years, and we've really seen unsustainable increases. Of course, any health insurance changes that we want to make have to be negotiated with our unions. And a big thing that you may not know is that retirees, after a certain number of years they work in the district based on their collective bargaining agreements, they are guaranteed the insurance benefit that they had when they were active when they retire. This isn't the case now, but years ago in our union contracts, retirees did not have to pay anything for their health insurance. So we still have a significant number of retirees who do not pay anything for their health insurance, and that has a huge cost. Right now, family plans are about $35,000. Two-person plans about $20,000, single plan about $12,000. So these are very expensive plans. And if the district is picking up the whole thing, that's quite a cost. So you can just see over the last few years, kind of how it's pretty unstable, the health insurance increases. It wasn't as bad a few years ago, but as you can see, the past 3 years has been really large increases. CDPHP has remained kind of more stable, I'll say, but still quite high. But you can see Highmark and our Caremark, CVS Caremark have really gone up, and that unfortunately is going to be the trend. Looking at ERS and TRS rates, so our ERS rate is Employees Retirement System. That's for our non-instructional staff members, and the TRS is our Teachers Retirement System, and that's for, of course, our instructional staff. So again, these are completely out of our control. These are determined by OSC for ERS and New York State TRS for the TRS rate, and they're based on actuary studies and investment performance. So for next year, unfortunately, right now ERS is estimated to increase. So you can see that for ERS, that's a huge percentage. So next year it's going up to 17.6% of salaries. TRS, on the other hand, is looking to decrease, which is great, to between 8.25 and 8.75% for next year. But you can see that they're pretty substantial. And looking at the historical rates, you can see how volatile they are. There was years where they were almost at 25%. There were years where they were actually like even less than 1%. So that can have a huge fluctuation on the budget. Typically, they don't have major swings from year to year, but you can see back in, the early 2000s, they grew quite substantially. Like there was huge jumps. So that's another thing we have to take into consideration when we make our budgets. And then, of course, salaries. Our collective bargaining agreements contain structured salary increases. And of course, we negotiate with our unions. So for this current year, it was 3.25 for our CSEA and 4.5 inclusive of STEP for our BTA. So salaries make up approximately 40% of the budget. And then salaries are, of course, tied to benefits, because when we hire somebody, we also have to consider the health insurance and the retirement, workers' comp, all that good stuff. So salaries then make up another approximately 30% of the budget. So about 70% of our budget is tied to salaries and benefits. And those are done really at the table. So the district, of course, is in a tough spot because we have to really think about our budget and being, fiscally prudent. But at the same time, we want to offer competitive salaries and benefits to attract and keep talented new hires. So, and then also right now, you used to hear that, when a teacher retires, you bring someone at step one, and there's a huge amount of savings when someone retires. But unfortunately, that's just not the job market now. Teaching staff are often coming in at mid to high steps, depending on that certification area. At tough certification areas, we may hire someone at step 20 because we need to get somebody in here to teach our kids. So there's no really longer that major cost savings when we have retirements. And of course, then with salaries, the district has hired for several new positions over the years. We've added to our budget for positions, so that's another added burden to the budget. So looking at the cost driver conclusions, I think a big one is that we really got to consider the future outlook when we negotiate, because what we decide at the negotiation table, it affects the district for that entire length of the contract. We can't make changes unless we get together, but not typically for salary or benefits. So that's a big thing. And then we're looking at budgeting for special education. I think the big takeaway is that we always really must consider the what ifs. We really have to make sure that we leave room for for those what ifs. We might get a student in here, 2 students, let's just say mid-year, that go to outside placement. So we have to keep some wiggle room in our budget for these changes. Or we may just have a student that is an in-house student, but they may need some extra support. They may need an aide, a one-on-one aide. So that's an added expense. So we have to really keep, we have to conservatively budget in special education for those what ifs. And I guess the overall takeaway is these cost drivers, and then also those uncertain revenues can make for big swings in the budget. And we just have to consider all of that when we plan our next budget. Thank you. Any questions?
Stephanie, I had a question. With the possibility of Troy merging with Wine and Skill in those discussions, do we have a feeling whether the legacy students would be able to continue at their current placements, or would they all be forced to go to Troy?
I heard that they would be able to finish out. I don't know. You probably have more information, Dr. Maloney.
I mean, I think this is, I think it's going to happen, but I do think it's going to be a process.
Okay.
It'll be a series of years, but that
That would
you
be
know,
my hopes, but. you
yeah,
never know.
in the thinking about the future, I think that's a critical point because that's just a revenue that won't be here with us anymore. Stephanie,
That,
Yeah, that's why I was wondering if it could go to
Yeah.
zero next year.
yeah,
That's why.
yeah.
we do have other non-wine and skill people that pay tuition and have kids come here, but it's not the number
Right.
of the other kids. Stephanie, are we confirmed for BPD to be here for the long-range financial planning?
We'll do the long-range financial plan next meeting.
So is that before our meeting?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay, so just keep that in mind. Our 5-year financial plan will be next month.
Just one more quick question on the high yield interest rate. Is that a fixed term, or is that something that's readily available?
It can change daily.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, unfortunately, I think the rates are gonna.
No, I mean, is the cash readily available?
Oh, yes, it's very, very liquid. So
Okay.
we can move it in and out.
That was my
Oh,
question.
yeah, it's
So
great.
we probably
Yeah, they're great.
maximize how much we have in there in
Oh,
cash.
yeah, we keep as much as we can.
All right,
But
thank
also,
you.
we have to make our regular bank happy, so we have to keep a certain
Yeah,
amount in, because they
understood.
don't charge us anything,
Sure,
which is nice, but
thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions? No, I think the long-term discussion will be a good one too, that we'll have the next board meeting, because some of the things about where all this money comes to is important.
But do
I have
you,
minutes, but do you want to do?
no, that do the minutes. That's what I was
All
gonna tell you.
So I need a motion to approve the minutes. Kevin, Dina, any questions, comments, changes? No? All right, all approved? All right, the ayes have it. So that approves the minutes, brings us to an update from the superintendent.
Yes, I have a few things, and then we have 2 presentations this evening. One topic that the board has spoken to me quite a bit about this year is looking for grants. And as Stephanie mentioned before, there's some federal grants that we do get allocations for from the federal government for Title I schools, for professional development, for safe schools, and we get 611 and 619 for special education. But one of the things that our district is not big enough, it's not small enough, it's not poor enough, it's not rich enough to qualify for some of the other grants. But I did apply for a grant through NISFA. I haven't heard whether or not we got it, but the intention was to reinstate the intramural 6th grade running program. So hopefully that'll be enough starter money. That's something that we've been able to, through the budget, to afford before. But in thinking about our cross-country and track numbers, having the kids start in 6th grade, doing a little running has been helpful in the past. So hopefully we'll get that and we can start that in the spring for our kids. Communication, you may have seen that our communication subcommittee meeting has made some decisions about the way we communicate some things. And the principal's newsletter has come out through the Bengal Bulletin, which is one link that has the 2 newsletters together. We didn't get any feedback either way on it, so I can only assume no news is good news. So we'll continue to message some things that way. This morning, I spent some time with Unica National, which is our insurance carrier, through a steering committee. And many of the things that Stephanie talked about in her presentation mirrored the conversation at that level. That is our liability insurance. And one of the things that they had shared, they go over a lot of things that, a lot of claims that schools are having. So for example, one of the very typical claims that schools are having is fires in schools, believe it or not. And one of the reasons that they're having fires are aftermarket chargers. And they're finding that's causing a lot of fires. But what they were explaining was that 4 years ago, a $20,000 claim would be $20,000, just a basic claim. That same claim is now well over $50K in 4 years. So the inflation that is hitting you in your home and your groceries is they're seeing that in liability claims and things like that. So it's just an interesting conversation. It's always good to be a part of. You learn where claims are happening so you can try to mitigate them and work through those things. Our ad hoc athletic committee is trying to get together with the coaches. Chad's going to talk a little bit, not about that, but about numbers in our process. But the ad hoc committee is just looking about ways that we might be able to, as a school community, encourage kids to stay in sports, do some outreach, et cetera. So we're trying to get that together and reaching out to our varsity coaches. And then on Monday, we have a professional development day. And as part of our overall AI conversation, I have somebody coming in from the Northeastern Regional Information Center. His name is Dr. Mike Dowdy, and he's going to be speaking about AI to all of our faculty and staff. And I've also put out a call for anybody that wants to be part of an AI committee. And I think after that presentation, it'll really get people thinking on those things. And then with that said, I'd like to invite up Mr. Kevin McCormick. You stand right over there, and I'll get you going. And Kevin is the director of our, okay, got it. I'm on it. There we go. Is the director of operations and maintenance for our district. And
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here tonight. Kevin McCormick, your Director of Facilities here at Brunswick Central School District. I wanted to take a second to thank you all for allowing me to come here and speak to you guys about the department and the things that we do and the wonderful people that we have working here. You'll find we have a good crew of people here who really care about what they do. And they're constantly trying to improve things to support the staff of the school district, to make everybody's lives a little easier, a little safer, a little cleaner. So the department mission, the Operations and Maintenance Department of the Brunswick Central School District is dedicated to providing safe, clean, and well-maintained facilities and grounds that foster a positive learning environment through teamwork, efficiency, and pride in our work. We support the district's mission by ensuring every building and outdoor space is functional, welcoming, and conducive to student and staff success. Conducive. For those of you who probably don't know, the Operations and Maintenance Department carries a few different departments underneath it. We are the shipping and receiving for the district. We take in an absorbent number of packages that I don't even think we could count if we wanted to. If you would like to see what it looks like, I would challenge you to visit the middle school cafeteria in the middle of August. We have filled the entire area with packages, tables, and Melissa and as many helpers as we can get proceed to start unpiling and sorting and sending every package to the 400 different rooms that we do have here in both buildings. We do all the scheduling for the outside groups and the events that are held here. We do the setups for the basketball games, the volleyball games. We do the football games, the soccer games outside. There's all sorts of setup that goes on. There's cleanup afterwards that happens by the custodial department, and they do a great job with that. Melissa Coughlin handles a lot of those events on her own, and she can handle a lot of different moving parts at the same time, and she's a very valued member of the Operations and Maintenance Department. The Grounds Department, I'm sure you all know who Timmy Murray is. He's been in the school district for about 20 years. He was a custodian. He's now our sole groundskeeper. He works very hard to make sure that the fields are ready and the grass is cut and the hedges are trimmed and the weeds are whacked. And we'll get a little more into that later. But custodial department's another one. We carry about 9 custodians right now, 2 day, 4 night in the high school area, 3 more over in the elementary school. And we have a head custodian too who helps out here. And then the maintenance department. Our maintenance department has shrunk a little bit over the years. We have what we consider a half grounds, half maintenance person. We rely on a lot of general contractors to come in from the outside and help us with a lot of the work that we do here. And we'll get more into that later, but next slide. Projects we've completed recently. We've done a lot of work in the bathrooms in mostly the middle school, high school building, I'd say. We've replaced a lot of flush valves with automatic flush valves, gone through, changed urinals, put in faucets, all that stuff. We were able to capitalize on, I think, some COVID funding before I got here, and there were some pallets of faucets and flush valves that were purchased, and we've been trying to include as many of those as we can as we go through. If we have an issue, we try to update whatever we're working on. So interior and exterior door replacements. You'll notice we have, there's a lot of doors in the building. Over the years, they get slammed, closed, something gets left in them, they get shoved. There's a lot of doors that have been broken and damaged. And last year, I think we replaced a good dozen of them in the team rooms, locker rooms, just throughout the years, they get a little misused, and it's par for the course. We did a lot of painting in the high school, middle school building, especially the hallways last year. We got most of the back corridor of the building done, worked our way up the district, started heading towards the main entrance. Once construction's done out there and we have more time, we're going to start continuing to work our way around. We like to utilize Tim during the winter, who's not really doing much during the day as far as outside. So we bring him in. He helps out in the building with painting and helping Donnie out with the cafeterias and Shannon in the elementary schools. So there's a lot that we can do with that. So the bus garage lighting, we replaced all the interior lights in the bus garage with LED, helped to save costs on the electricity usage that we have. It was a pretty big project. We did that about 2 years ago, I think, when I just started. We were able to capitalize on some additional funding a few years ago. We purchased some high school, middle school desks to replace the one-armed bandits that some of the people in this room probably used when they were going to school here. They were well used, pretty old, and it was time for some new desks. We also were able to purchase new cafeteria tables for the middle school. Those are not cheap to purchase. I don't know if anybody's ever seen a quote for those, but they're $3,000 to $4,000, $5,000 a piece. And when you're talking 20, 30 of them, it adds up quickly. So we done a lot of controls upgrades just through our contract that we have with TBS Controls and our maintenance that we have, Michael. They went through and did a lot of conversions from old compressor controls to computer actuated controls, which is a little different. It's a little more integrated, easier to control, much more reliable. And I know we did the high school gym. I think that was done right before I started. We also were able to take care of the middle school gym last year. I think the only one we got left is the multipurpose in this building, and then we'll start working our way over towards the elementary school to take care of that. Next slide. The grounds department. If you don't notice, the custodial and grounds crew take care of 100% of the snow removal on this facility. We have 2 plow trucks. We have a Ventrac tractor with a heated cab and a brush and a salter, and it takes care of all the sidewalks. Have a Kubota tractor with a snow blower attachment on it in case the snow gets thick. We're able to maintain the facility at about 7-8 inches, but once we start getting more than that, we got to give Dr. Maloney a call and say, we can't keep up. So, which is typically when her and Todd will call a snow day, I believe. So we instituted some PM maintenance procedures on our tractors and our mowers. The mechanics at the bus garage actually take care of most of that for us. We contract out when we have to, when they're busy or something that they don't feel comfortable with. We'll call up our friends at Grassland and we'll bring it out there to have it serviced. Thanks to the board, we were able to purchase a turf tank line striping machine. If nobody's heard of this, I recommend you go online and look at it. It's one of the coolest things. You'll see them on baseball fields and all over the country, but it takes a computer program and it paints all the lines on the field. You can just stand there and watch it go, and it's accurate, it's consistent, it's reliable, and it's been a great addition to our grounds department to kind of help Tim with other things that he needs to do. It's a huge time saver. We also purchased a baseball field groomer that attaches to our Ventrac tractor to try to help maintain the field surface for the baseball season. It can be quite a process. Every day before a game, we're out there grooming the field. We were using some different things in the past, but this seems to be the best. It does a good job, gets it done quick. We can get the fields done and ready to go in an hour, so it's really nice. Upcoming, we have the new turf football field that is being, turf stadium field that is being produced. Football, soccer, lacrosse, got it all out there. We're gonna have to purchase a few pieces of equipment to maintain that. We're exploring some service contracts with the A-Turf, the company who's installing it, whether it's an item that we maintain partially and they maintain. They come in once a year. We have a few different options. So as we go through this year, we're going to review what makes the most sense for the school. The groomer purchase, that's the groomer purchase, and then the field maintenance. I would also like to start looking into having, with the new soccer field going on Route 2, we're going to look into some organic grass maintenance annually, biannually, whatever recommended. we have a few different people that we already work with who've done some testing on the fields in the past. And we'll be reaching out to them, try to get some some new things in place for that. If you look on the side there, probably a lot of people don't know, but this property that we take care of here with our one groundskeeper is about 36 acres of grass and parking lot. When you include the area at the bus garage, which is about 2 acres. We also own the brick schoolhouse up by Stewart's. That's about a half an acre. It's not a lot, but we do. Tim goes up, mows all those just about every week. So we try to maintain those. There's fence lines that need to be trimmed. There's bushes that need to be trimmed. It's the same package in a different place. So he stretched out all over the place, trying to make sure we can keep everything up and get the grass growed, make sure that the sports fields are sitting around 2 inches for soccer or an inch or whatever it could be. So he's definitely got his hands full, but I think he knocks it out. He's a hell of a committed person at the school district. So custodial department. So currently we have 2 day custodians. One takes care of the secondary school, the other one takes care of the elementary school. You'll find we have a lot more needs in the elementary school for custodial throughout the day, whether it's your code yellows, your code browns, whatever it could be. We've heard them all. They have a tendency to really make it sound good on the radio. We've done some cleaning process improvements. We've made some checklists for bathrooms. We've increased deep cleaning in bathrooms, vacuuming. There's some special machines they make where you go in. It's pretty much like a pressure washer for your house, but it's used in the bathroom with a wet vac, uses chemicals, and it really helps get behind the toilets, get into cracks and crevices, and really leaves a nice, clean, sanitized surface for people to come in and use. And we're trying to increase that as much as possible because it really is, it's a great machine. We do a lot in the summer. I know nobody's really here. Ms. Honorado's here in the summer. Paul will be here in the summer. Bree's here in the summer, but the buildings are pretty empty. We like to take the time to clean out the classrooms. We clean out all the furniture, clean the furniture top to bottom, leave it in the hallway. We'll go in, start at the top of the ceiling in the classroom, place the tiles, go through the light bulbs, dust the corners, clean the windowsills and the blinds. It's a very in-depth process that nobody really ever gets to see unless you happen to be here. But it takes a lot of work, takes a lot of people, and it's quite a thing. This year we were able to do most of this building. I think we got a little held up with construction, but we were still able to work our way around and coordinate. And yeah, I think a lot of things came out nice over here. Elementary school is the same thing. Next year we'll probably start over there, try to get a little bit of a deeper clean there and not be rushing towards the end of the year. So it's a matter of mixing up to make sure you're hitting all the spots. So sometimes you got to start here, sometimes you start over there. And when you're rushing at the end, you know you're going to come back and get it next year. So it's not as big of a deal. We're a new member of the ISSA Cleaning Institute. That's a company that comes in, they work with our head custodian. They do a program called Train the Trainer, who he went through at the end of last year. Part of that is we're going to purchase some test booklets and some videos for the custodians so that we can sit them down, get them into what they call the beginner custodial training course. So as we move through this year, that's something that we're looking to do is increase the training, increase the knowledge, increase the information that they have at their disposal and the tools so that they can do a better job for the school district. Most of you don't know, but we scheduled about 1,400 events in our work order system last year, from games to concerts to cloggers. Yep. Follies. I could go on for an hour of the different. We have an alumni group. I think they're playing right now. CYO basketball. That's a big one. If you want to see what it looks like at the busiest time, come on down here in December and you'll see every gym full, people running through the hallways, turtles in the back of the school. It gets a little crazy. But they do a good job handling it, the custodians at night, trying to keep everybody where they belong, trying to make sure that the rooms are open that they need to get into and that everything's clean and safe so everybody can have a good experience. Currently, we have, like I already said, this building is about 275,000. Both buildings is 275,000 square feet. This one's about 186,000. Elementary school is about 90,000. We have 4 full-time custodians who work in this building, 3 who work over there. Our head custodian stays over here so we can handle a lot of the events because this is where most of them happen. And they do a really good job with that. The sections that the custodians clean, each one is assigned a section. Custodial sections range from about 20 to 36,000 square feet in some instances. We go through and grade the school based on what gets the most usage, what rooms are used more. Your gyms, your cafeterias, they get more of a higher priority. And you really need to kind of balance it out so that at the end of the night, every gym can get cleaned, every locker room can get cleaned, the bathrooms that were being used can get cleaned. It's quite a process to make sure that we can hit everything by the end of the evening. And that's a little higher than what you would see in the past. I think the numbers have increased for the size based off staffing levels, but you know, we do what we can do to try to meet the needs of what the district needs. So maintenance is a big part of the school district. It's probably something I spend most of my time on with Michael Murray, our maintenance mechanic. He was brought in here. He was a custodian over at the elementary school. When we interviewed, he did a stellar job, and he's really been working his butt off since he started. He handles all the work orders that come in, handles working with the contractors that we deal with as far as the HVAC and the computer controls for the HVAC systems. He works with the sprinkler company for the blowing out the lines on the field. Works with just about everybody. We do a lot with Kamali. We work with 75 different contractors, I think, is just about what we work with as far as every service that's needed to be done here. So it's quite a process getting the purchase orders in, getting the money allocated, getting the work done. It's quite a bit. So last year we were able to complete 750 corrective work orders. Now a corrective work order is something that a teacher or a staff member placed. So that was a pretty nice number to see. We did about 131 scheduled PM work orders, which is your HVAC equipment, your dust collector in the shop. There's 1,000 different pieces that need preventative maintenance just about every year. So Mike does a good job dividing his time, hitting the important things, making sure everything's safe, and trying to keep the school warm and water flowing. And it can be quite a challenge sometimes, but thanks to the capital project, we got a lot of new pieces of infrastructure coming in here that's going to make our lives a little easier, I think, from the fire alarm systems to the camera systems to the boilers in the basement, which is a beautiful thing. It's one of our favorite things to look at now. Maybe my next slide, I'll have some pictures for you. But anyways, yeah, Mike's done a lot of LED replacements for us. We made some updates to the work order system, get to the newest version so that it works better for everybody. And yeah, that's the maintenance department. Current challenges. I'd say one of our biggest challenges right now is our custodial staffing. We did lose a position last year. It's a bit of an impact, but we try to sub in substitutes. We tend to have a lot of turnover in that department because they're not full-time positions and the work is not easy. You know, it's late nights, it's hard work. We have been able to hire a few this year. One is left, we still have one. We're always looking. We interviewed a few this week and we're hoping that we can keep those numbers increasing. If we could create a big sub pool for the custodian, it only helps on the days that our full-time staff are taking their vacation days, having their doctor's appointments, whatever it could be. We allocate a lot of days to our employees so that they can live their lives and take care of what they need to take care of on their own time. So obviously, we got a little chart on the side here. Found some numbers from 2015 to today. Our maintenance, we used to have 2 maintenance workers who worked in the buildings. They were HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. We handle a lot of that in-house. Now we use a lot of contractors for those type of things. Groundskeepers, we've decreased by, Mike's considered half and half, so I'd say we decreased by half a person for that. And then day custodians, we used to have 4, now we're down to 2. Night custodians, we had 6 now, or we had 8, and now we're down to 6, and we have 1 head custodian, so we've lost 1 there too. It just adds more on the plates of everybody each evening to take care of. The work still needs to be done. You know, the cleaning still has to get done. And they're doing the best they can with what they have. So Other challenges that we still face, we did a lot with the mechanical systems, but we still have classroom unit ventilators that we need to start looking into. Air handlers for the offices that are going to have to be addressed at some point. It's an ever evolving process. As soon as you update the technology, new technology comes out. Once you get to the end, you're starting again. That's kind of how the process works. So one of my goals over the next few years is to create a list so that you guys actually have some information as far as dates and times for the equipment that we do have, when we recommend that it gets replaced, and what the current age of a lot of the stuff is that we have. But that's something we're working on. Hoping in the next year or two, I can have that to you. It's quite a lot. There's about 500 pieces of HVAC equipment, everything from the floor tile to the ceiling. We've also seen a big increase in weekend building use. So we don't staff the weekends. We use our weekday custodians. They come in on the weekends. They work their overtime. We do not have positions on the weekends anymore to take care of that. So we do see an increased cost on the overtime that we're paying to the custodians for those services. But again, there's a job that needs to be done, and they always seem to step up and take care of what they need to. So future building upgrades with existing budget. So these are things that we're going to work on as we can through the funding that we have available through our normal budget. We're going through replacing door handles and going to try to upgrade the key schedules for the classrooms. We're going to go through, do some more interior door replacements from last year. We have got about 5 on the list right now that we got quoted up and ready to go. There's something that hit the bill last year was the heating in schools bill. I'm not sure if anybody knows it, has heard about it, but it's going to be an impact on the district in a few particular locations that get hotter than others. So in my mind, I'm thinking about the second floor of the secondary building, most of the elementary school that doesn't have any protection from the sun. And those areas we're going to have to look at as we go through definitely this spring and see where we really need to start looking into adding some of these air-conditioned spaces. And hopefully we can try to get that into a capital project in the future. LED lighting upgrades, those are going to continue. Mike takes care of a lot of those on his own. Parking lot repairs, we're going to go through. We understand the funding isn't available, so as long as we have funding through our budget, we'll get the contractors in here to try to fill, grade and fill the potholes, take care of the areas where everybody's traveling. I think we all know we got some good potholes out there. We've all hit them. But Timmy does his best job to get the asphalt patch in them when he can and try to make everybody's driving a little better. We'll also see the field turf maintenance is going to be a new contract that we're going to have to work with A-Turf on. There's a few different options. I kind of already talked about it, but there's an annual option. There's a monthly option. There's an option where we do a little, they do a little. So we're going to sit down and run the numbers and see what makes the most sense. Going to continue to work through the bathrooms, updating flush valves, fixing the toilets that don't work, fixing the urinals and sinks that don't work. It's a never-ending battle. We had a couple 8th graders last year, I think, taking apart faucets up in the 8th grade wing, which we then caught, and obviously
They actually brought tools to school.
they brought tools to school. Never seen it. I've never seen anything like that. Sometimes they'll turn them around, but they were taking them apart. Future capital project needs. Parking lot replacements. I know we're going to need to do some work out here at the auditorium parking lot. That's been getting pretty bad over the last couple of years. The back by the stadium field, there's some good potholes around the edges where people drive. And then the inner loop at the high school, there's going to be some drainage improvements that need to be done there and some speed bumps added for safety and that kind of stuff. So we're looking heavily right now into the competition gym bleacher replacement. We got a few quotes to repair those. It's not going to really fit into our current budget or under the project that we're having. So that's going to be a future thing that we're going to be talking about. I think everybody knows the shape of the bleachers. They've all sat on them, and they could definitely use a replacement. I think a spot a lot of people forget about is the elementary school gym, and I put it on the slide, but I don't think the athletic equipment in there has seen much of an upgrade since maybe the late 80s. We got wooden backboards, and the CYO program has started using that a little more. So I think it's something we definitely want to look at to make sure that we're providing a nice space for the kids to play. Elementary school classrooms. I know me and Ms. Honorado have talked about this a little bit. There's some classroom upgrades that we'd like to do as far as the glass in the hallways and the walls and the cubbies and how that all works. I know we want to do some flooring upgrades in the classrooms. It's old, it's been a little beat up, and it's time to start looking at some of these spaces that we use and putting in better cabinetry, better electronics, and just making it a safer space for everybody. In this building, I would say the second floor at the high school is one of our biggest areas that we could use improvements. I think a lot of that area is original to the building. So this building was built in 1957. That one was built in 1964. So we're still looking at floors that were there in 1957, wall tile, all that stuff. So these are some areas that I definitely want to start getting into. I know we do a lot of stuff with the common areas, the hallways, the cafeterias, but it'd be nice to start getting into the classrooms, upgrading these spaces for the students who are in them every day and the teachers and staff members who have to use them. High school, middle school, high school and multi-purpose locker rooms. Those haven't seen upgrades on this round. I know we did the middle school recently, but those are going to be on the agenda for the next round, I think, when we start looking at locker room spaces. You got old floor tile, old appliances, old toilets and fixtures in the bathroom. So we'll do the best we can to update them with what we have on our budget, but it's going to be something we're going to talk about. And then again, the heating and cooling upgrades in the instructional spaces, that directly relates to the heating in schools bill that was just passed. We'll know more about that as we get into the spring and what's going to be affected. Also, we've been talking, me and Kelly, about the primary playground replacements. I think they're about 20 something years old at this point. We've got some areas that we could use some attention on. They do get inspections every year by Questar. Everything's safe. There's nothing to be concerned about, but just to get ahead of the issue as soon as we can. They're very heavily used. It's something that the kids love over there. So this is a project that I wanted to showcase for you guys. There was a former student here, Kyle Eddy. He owns his own landscaping company. I believe he planted the trees out in front of the elementary school under capital project, but he partnered with a former teacher, Mary Beth Becker, and he completely redesigned the courtyard, supplied all the materials and the labor at no cost to the district. Over the last year, he's been coming in on every break week, working with us to update this space to make it a little more usable. And the difference from the two pictures is pretty astounding. The old one was to a point where they had laid pea stone down at some point. It made it almost impossible to mow or weed whack. So 2 or 3 times a year, everybody would have to go in there and pull the weeds with hand. I think Angelina volunteered a few times to come in and help everybody out. But, this obviously is a much better use of the space, and I can't wait to see the kids using it when spring comes, because it's going to be a nice area for them to utilize. I also got the work-based learning team in there. They help Tim out with the courtyards in this building. They take care of the leaves, the grass, the weed whacking, the bushes. So that's just a service that they provide to us that we do appreciate. They help us out with putting our furniture together. When we get furniture in, they help us out with that. We work closely with Sherry to try to make sure that the kids have what they need. Everything's being done in a safe manner, and it's a program that I know she's very proud of, and I'm happy to be a part of it, to be able to help them with it as well. That's the last slide. I definitely overwent my 10 minutes, so I apologize.
I didn't know you had 10 minutes. I mean, Kevin, that was I don't want to speak for everyone, but that was incredibly exhaustive and very informative. Angelina, I would love to see that shared some other way with folks who may not be here, because there's not a lot of people here. But I will just say this, and I'm sure other people may have questions or comments, but this is the kind of stuff that's really important to understand when we're talking about budgets and what we're voting for. Because again, going through things line by line last year and understanding kind of what we're looking at, we are looking at things like faucets
Absolutely.
and tiles and everything else. So, it's impressive what you guys do with a pretty small team. So thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add too that they lost a custodian this year.
Correct.
Due to the budget, and it wasn't voluntary, it was budgetary constraints.
I think in the past, the O&M department has always stepped up to help the district any way they can.
They do a lot
so,
for little.
Yeah.
They're all really hard workers.
absolutely.
I'll just say this though, at some point you can only get so much out of
Yes.
people,
Only
and
squeeze
yeah.
so much juice from a lemon, right? I really, the Melissa Coughlin, Mike Murray, Tim Murray, they really keep this department running. They're sole individuals they pretty much run a department on their own, and I don't think they get the credit that maybe they deserve. They're the unsung heroes that nobody ever sees. And as long as everything's operating, nobody hears from us, nobody knows we even exist. It's in the times of trouble that you see us show up, heat's out, water's out, pouring out of the ceiling, roof's leaking. So happy to speak to you guys today. I really appreciate you letting me go through my department, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nope.
I almost made it.
It's an easy one. So I think it had been 2 or 3 years ago, a student had come in and said, like, can we have a program where we hire students as after school custodians? And I think we had 2 for a little while. Do we have any anymore? Did that go away? What happened with that?
Not right now. We actually struggled getting kids to be
Yeah.
interested in that.
I think you put that out when I first started, and I don't think we saw much interest at that time.
Yeah.
But that's definitely something we could revisit.
It is, it's kind of manifesting itself in a different way now with work-based learning.
Mhm.
Yes.
So although they're not taking people's jobs, they're doing some work in that. And
They're
they're actually,
assisting.
that would be, it's almost a job shadow for kids that might want to go into that world.
Okay.
Thanks.
It's hard. You got to remember that the people that we have working here, they have a job to do in the first place. So when you start adding somebody that they have to help learn, teach, all that stuff, sometimes it can be difficult when we're running on the staff that we have. So it's just another thing to consider.
Kevin, I just had one, and thank you for this. This was great. Did I hear you right? Did you say no one on your team is full-time?
Oh, no, that's not correct.
Okay.
Subs. We have substitute custodians that come in and help us out on the nights where we're short. But no, we have multiple, they're all full-time.
Everybody's full-time.
Yeah, everybody's
Okay.
full-time. Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard to keep subs because it's not a
It's
full-time
not a
position.
full-time
They're not
job.
They're
guaranteed work.
often looking
There's
for
no
full-time,
benefits.
so
Okay.
it's hard to get
Yeah.
subs.
And I did reach out to other school districts. We are pretty competitive in our substitute pay. We're sort of in the middle. We're not high, we're not low. So, there's other things to consider as we move forward for them.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kevin?
I did have one request, just. because I'm
Absolutely.
curious. You mentioned reaching out to other districts. I'd be curious to know with our other districts, you mentioned the square foot assigned per custodian, like, how that compares.
There's guidance out there for it. It seems to be a little bit buried over the last decade. But it's anywhere from 18,000 to 25,000 square feet per section is kind of what's recommended. And again, that's based off the load of the room and the people that are in it and how it's being used. So cafeterias need to be cleaned 3 times a day. Gym sometimes has to be cleaned 3 or 4 times a day. Some classrooms only need to be cleaned once a week. It depends. So,
It
there's
also
room-
depends on the equipment too. So we made
Absolutely.
some pretty significant investments in things like
floor
floor
scrubbers,
cleaners, right? Yeah.
carpet
So
extractors.
That helps a lot, but it's
100%.
pricey too.
Absolutely.
Great,
We use
great.
golden funds for getting
Yeah.
some of that.
Yeah. We picked up some nice floor scrubbers for that, carpet extractors, floor stripping machines. We've upped up on our equipment, got some nice backpack vacuums for everybody. So they can be mobile, move around a little quicker. You wouldn't think about it, but it's actually something to consider when you have to plug in and unplug a cord when you're cleaning 20,000 square feet. So, it's something to consider. Your house is about 2,000, if you're lucky, square feet. How long does it take you to clean your house? These guys clean about 20,000 square feet a night. So it's quite a feat that they do.
It's a good way.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Kevin? Okay, before you sit down, I'm just gonna give a brief capital project update while I've got right here, and please feel free to join in. Kevin is he's an integral part, thank you. He's an integral part of that team. He sits in, does a lot of boots on the ground things. He's looking at boilers and doing those things where Stephanie and I aren't looking at boilers. And a lot of the work in this project, which was very expensive, are things that people can't see. But as Kevin mentioned in his presentation, the boilers, although they haven't been fully turned over to the district, they're working quite well. They were able to get them turned on for the beginning of October, or the middle of October, excuse me, right when we needed to. They're still working on some things. If anybody had the opportunity to go to the NJHS ceremony the other day, woke up 6 o'clock in the morning and there was no heat in the auditorium. That's part of the system that's still getting worked on as we go through. So those are just good examples that you never know when something is going to fail. And it happened to be a valve that got stuck open. It was fine the day before and it wasn't yesterday.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of different people to come in and look at it, controls and plumbers and all
Had
sorts.
4
of things.
different contractors looking at that problem.
The turf, which is what everybody seems to be very, very interested in. The turf, actually, the artificial turf is substantially done. There's a very, very small punch list. And I mentioned that because sometimes it would be a huge punch list and it would be a big problem. So that's really good news. That part's going well. We are targeted for 11/17 to do the paving for the track and the running surface areas, which is a good thing. But there is a small problem. It's not going to impact students, but they're not going to have enough time to actually do the track surface this year. And the reason for that is you have to have temperatures that are in the 60s range. And with the weather and things, it's just to that point.
I thought that was next year anyway, the track.
No, we actually thought we could get it.
So we could sneak it in.
Honestly, no, what happened? It was the beaver.
The beaver's back.
The beaver
Yeah,
actually
he is.
slowed the project down just enough, couple days that now that we're into the colder weather. But to your point, Kevin, that was always on the outside window of things. So it really shouldn't affect kids because once the track season starts, they're running other places. And as soon as it's warm enough, they'll spray it and do the lines and that kind of thing. So it's unfortunate, but really it's not going to be a substantial impact to kids. Some other things that are really good news, the main office upgrades, actually Mrs. Norton and Ms. Lemieux moved in this week. We're still waiting on the furniture, but that they're actually starting to use the space as it's been designed. You could see at the beginning of our building, there's the secure addition. They're making really good progress on that. And again, little things that come up, like the steel has to be a certain temperature. So they've got to wait for the sun to come out for the steel to be a certain temperature to do the work that they have to do. So these things are just very methodical and slow. Fire alarm systems, we're beginning work on that. The generator pad, things that people don't think of, had to be poured and they had to put a protective box around the gas line that goes to the generators. The grading on Route 2, I get a lot of questions about that. That is because we're going to be putting in sod. We are going to go with the upgraded sod and they just have to go through it and not strain it, but grade it time and time and time again. And they worked on the new storm drainage. So they're still on target for that. It'll still be going along and they'll keep working until they can't anymore, until the ground is frozen. The wastewater treatment plant has new sidewalks and the buildings and many of the rooms have new messaging boards. I don't actually know I think it's going to be a clock.
So it's a clock speaker combination. So it's part of the integral lockdown system that's going into school. You'll notice there'll be blue lights and there'll be these. Essentially what it does, it'll scroll a message across it if there's a lockdown or a hold in place or anything that's called in the school. There's lights that flash all over the place. You can't miss it. The speakers are loud. It's the same systems that I installed in the previous school that I had been in, and they were very good. So I was very happy that these were the ones that ended up getting here because I've seen them work and they're fantastic.
So work will continue to go on in small places in the wastewater treatment plant and some other things. We have to do some asbestos abatement in the auditorium.
Yes.
We were hoping to get that done prior to the concert season, but we just had a meeting this week and I just said no. I can't risk the auditorium not being available for our different productions. So we're going to try to do it either over Christmas break or right at the beginning of January, right in that sweet spot. So
Absolutely.
did I miss anything that you can think of right now up here?
Well, I'm a permitted beaver removal person now through the DEC. Didn't know that I could add that to my accolades, but I am permitted to remove.
It's on the resume.
Yes, and dams.
Any other questions about the capital project? Anything on right now? And I have some pictures that I will send out and I will also be putting, probably next week, maybe after the track is poured, I'll put out some pictures to the community and let them know where it is at this point in the process. Great. Excellent. Thank you
Great.
very much.
Thank
you. Mr. Minor.
Should I try to use it?
Yes, please. All right. As you all know, this is Chad Minor, our athletic director, and he also is going to be giving just a brief overview, similar to Kevin, probably a little bit more in-depth.
More brief.
Yeah.
Yeah, before I start, I just want to say thanks to the board for inviting me out to speak and give a little brief report, kind of update and things that we've been seeing and sort of things that we're hoping for as the future of Tamarack athletics. I also want to shout out O&M. Kevin gave a great presentation, but they really do everything he said and more to help us with athletic events and getting ready for everything from media day to homecoming. Special shout out Booster Club. They do a lot too. PTA, tons that they do just to connect our community with student athletes. And last but not least, our staff and for what they do for students. And transportation for the buses. Yeah, the agenda, some accomplishments, trends that we're seeing in athletics here, and participation, some necessities moving forward, and then just kind of like what the future looks like. Cool. Accomplishments, I wanted to start. We have student athletes here, first and foremost. So we're a NISFA School of Excellence. We last year had 17 scholar athlete teams, which really does put us in an upper tier as far as it goes with scholar athlete teams. This fall, we were able to successfully field a team at every level in every sport. Last fall, we couldn't say that, so I'm proud to say that this year. I wanted to just mention the new turf field going in, the track and field that we're putting in, Route 2 game field. Those are going to be huge for our student athletes that we're going to be able to use this spring. And, you know, as I touched on the future, that's going to be something that will help grow and build the future here at Tamarack. Some more accomplishments. We had sectional New York State qualifiers. We still have teams going right now, Western League championships, All-Stars, and I wanted to highlight the Brunswick Bulldogs success.
Is it that all of our varsity teams participated in sectionals?
Yeah.
So not every school can say that either.
True. And then we've got new uniforms for a few teams just in the last year or so. So I wanted to mention that too. Trends that I've seen and just talking with coaches and other ADs in the Western League, we're seeing a huge growth in lifetime sports. I coach golf here. It's the most Western League golfers we've seen in sectionals. So that just, it shows you that that sport is one in particular that's growing. But generally speaking, our lifetime sports here are growing. And we've also seen a decline in some of the high contact sports across the state, across the league, and here at Tamarack too. Another trend I've seen and heard just talking with coaches that hurts our numbers, and just a trend that's apparently more recent, is we have student athletes that may specialize in one sport, meaning say you're an all-star in the fall, you stick with that fall sport in the winter and in the spring, and some student athletes may forego the opportunity to play in the winter or the spring. Whereas before, maybe student athletes were taking advantage of playing 3 seasons. I was doing research just out of my own curiosity. That was from 2024. 61% of teenage boys that they polled said that they play video games every day. And that's not to say that they're not playing or participating in athletics due to video games, but I feel like those numbers are substantially higher than they've been in the past. And that may contribute to some of the decline in numbers, generally speaking. And then the trend I've seen, just quickly looking through our registration numbers, there's been a decline in the last 3 seasons on average.
Of kids playing all those seasons.
Yeah. And in general, as far as signing up and playing per season.
I would just add anecdotally about the video games. NISFA tried to make an initiative to have the schools to have gaming, esports, be actually like a NISFA sport, just like soccer and everything like that. And the membership schools voted it down. And the thinking was, even though it's not an active per se, anytime a kid can be on a team and be part of a culture and climate would be good for them. I don't know how many states do have it, but we're one of the biggest states. And unfortunately, we don't do that. And the kids are spending a lot of time. We have an esport club, and there's a league, but it's not through NISFA.
Here's the participation registration numbers I touched on the last slide. I included this year for the fall, and then the last few years that we've had, like I said. This is solely registration numbers, so it could, in theory, be less final roster numbers. But as you can see, it's trending down. The good news is we aren't abnormally trending down. Like I said, like the league and the state is trending down as well. So we're sort of in line with those numbers as well. But personally, I don't like to see those numbers go down. I'd much rather like to see them go up. Ideally, with the new turf field and all these initiatives that we're bringing in, we'll see those numbers increase. Here's some essentials. Like I think this, talking with coaches and other ADs in the league, these are some things that they've done, and just some things personally that I think could help out and sort of grow the numbers and build the camaraderie here as far as athletics goes. Athletics-based clubs. Dr. Maloney mentioned running club, which would be great to bring back. I know we have a ski club, but just some sort of intramurals and other clubs that we could have athletic based to get kids interested and back into the swing of things. Because students that I talk to that aren't participating either stopped doing it and it's hard to get back in, or it was some sort of a situation where they didn't have the opportunity past a certain grade. Maintaining huddle for the entire athletics program. We're able to do that with the help of the Booster Club. I think that's something that's very important to keep going. With huddle, it not only helps our coaches as far as scouting and game film, but it also provides the students a chance to clip highlight reels that they could send off to colleges, and it gives them an opportunity to just be seen in other ways that they might not. More so now than ever, and sort of I hope to see more colleges and stuff as you go to things, but coaches that I talk to now are solely relying, especially if they're far away, on digital media as far as recruiting goes. Other essentials, Kevin touched on it as well. Improving the spectator seating in the high school gym would be huge. As he mentioned, it's not in the best shape. I don't need to get into that, but overall, the bleachers and expanding the size of the bleachers would help not only bring more spectators in, but also safety concerns and just the overall aesthetic and the look of the place. I'd like to see, or just the development and build upon a strength and conditioning program. We have Coach Ryan who comes after school voluntarily and puts in his time after school with students, but in the weight room. But not every student has the opportunity to stay after school, or it could conflict with whatever sport that they're playing in season. So to institute something throughout the school day, or some sort of a club where the students could come and use the weight room, or any sort of athletic sort of strength and conditioning program, I really think would help them build upon what we already have going here. And then just another side note that I think would be a benefit to the school, even at the part-time level, would be an athletic trainer. We have students who have nicks and bruises that may not require, say, a complete doctor's visit that puts them out of athletics. But as far as taping goes, and just an opinion on things, I feel an athletic trainer could be very valuable to just the overall benefit of the athletics program. And then just to wrap it up, I wanted to talk about the future of Tamarack athletics. I touched on the Bulldogs, but we have a lot of youth programs in the community, such as CYO, AAU programs. We do clinics with our varsity programs and try to work with them. But I think the promotion of those youth programs would be huge, because that's the feeder program. That's where it starts. And keeping those students and young kids in those youth programs and maybe playing 3 different sports, by the time they get to the high school level, they'll want to stick and play and fall in love with 3 different sports and keep it going. Overall emphasis on interscholastic athletics. I feel now more so than ever, we're promoting it on BNN, or it's on the announcements during and after school. I see it all over social media. So that's great to see. It's growing, the athletics program, and people are seeing what our students are accomplishing. And then the last thing, I touched on it before, but I really think athletics-based clubs, intramurals, and sports like that just provide an opportunity for students that might not get it, and it could inspire them to kind of try a sport that they might not know that they're good at, or that they never even thought to try before. So I kind of went quick, but I can take any questions that anyone has.
I just had a question about the hockey program.
Sure.
And what the future of that looks like. I know currently, or I don't know if it was last year, currently we only have 1 student enrolled in the hockey program, and that there's significant costs associated with the hockey program. Do we have students who are intending to want to play this winter or next winter, or like what the future of that from an athlete perspective looks like?
Yes, right now we have 1 student who, last year we had 2. We have 1 who's a senior this year who does intend to play hockey, and I've talked to coach, and he'll start in a few games, if not all. And Beyond that, we don't have, to my knowledge, a large number of students interested. But
I know that we
not-
actually have two, just because I was just talking to the parents today. There are
That are in the
two
middle school?
that are in the middle school, so they potentially could be moving up to the program next year.
So here's the tricky part, and Chad and I talked at length about this, and I think it's, I don't mean to take up any more time, but I think it's gonna be, it could be a hot topic for the board to grapple with. After the student that's a senior this year graduates, we know for a fact next year there's no one to play. And even if someone just said, yeah, like, I wanna start playing hockey, they actually have to make a team that's made up of a bunch of suburban schools, so it's not even a guarantee, although the kids thus far that have indicated that they want to play hockey, they've had a great opportunity thus far. So we've already let the lead school know that, hey, after this year, we don't think we have anybody coming. Now, how they handle it, I'm not really sure, because throughout this merger, once we joined, we've been in, and there hasn't been a break in the number of kids. But I was sharing with Chad that I have been approached by some parents of kids that are younger, like even like fourth or fifth grade, saying, my kid, Angelina, we started that program, the program better be there, kind of thing. I said, oh, we're gonna take it on a year by year basis, kind of thing. So I think the way we sort of have to look at this is like, if we didn't have anybody, I'll use golf, for example. If there's no golfers, we wouldn't have a golf team, right? The only complicating factor is that we're part of a merger. And once we leave, there's no guarantee that we are allowed back in, right? And I think that's part of a risk that we would have to take. However, if let's just say we weren't in the program and maybe 3 years from now, we have somebody that wants to play, what we would do is what we do with some other sports like swimming, where we don't have a program. We would certainly go back to that program and say, hey, would you allow us back in? Would you allow us to join? And if not them, we might look to some other things.
Right.
Chad also, and I'll butcher this, so you're gonna have to help me with this. Chad had mentioned that there's something newer about like a JV merged program. And I don't know too much about that.
Yeah, the process to merge at the sub level, meaning modified and JV, is a lot less extensive than to say a varsity merge. So as I look at hockey, I would say us not merging for CD Jets would only be a temporary thing. Say down the road when those two kids want to play and be on the team, even if it's just a 1-year layoff, so to speak, I think that it could just be a temporary thing moving forward. As you said, if we didn't have numbers, unfortunately it happened last fall, we couldn't field modified girls soccer. So it's the same thing, whereas just to save the cost, because as you said, it is substantial.
Is that a
But I only look at it-
player cost or our program? So if there's 8 kids, I'm making up the numbers, by the way. It's $10,000 if it's 8 kids, or it's $10,000 if it's 1 kid.
That's the problem, is it's not pulled out fairly per
Is that
student.
something else we could bring
Because,
back to the table about this merger to say, like, can we break this down?
Cause
per
like North
player?
Colony has a lot more players, but we had, how many last year? 2,
Two.
3? Yeah, 2,
Two on
and we were
varsity.
still paying this, like, it's not fair.
Who's paying this
Yeah,
as a
it's-
team
it's
to
not
put
right.
out 12
Yeah,
kids on,
yeah,
I'm
it's-
making up that number.
I think the thinking when the merger started, again, this is going back however number, it was 6 years ago, or something like that.
Yeah.
Was that everybody was named a participant, and however number of kids you wanted to try out, and if they made it, they made it. And it just happens to be our population we're a much smaller school. So as that number dwindled down, when it was 5 kids, we were like, oh, that's not that big of a deal, but when it was 2 or 1, that's when it really seems
A lot of
outrageous.
things also changed with that team, because the ice time, which is majority of what hockey costs,
Right.
was on the parents. So we as parents had to pay that, and that was around $1,500 for the season. So that was a lot of money. The board then said, hey, the board of the hockey team went and said, hey, this isn't fair, football and soccer don't pay for their field time, why do we have to? When we're paying for all the equipment as well, so they got it to the schools pay for the ice time, so that's why
And the
cost
official.
increased.
I think the
Yeah.
official cost
Right.
also went really, really
Right.
The
so-
cost breakdown is the ice time, the officials, they include coach's salary in there,
Equipment,
uniforms and
transportation,
transportation. So
Well, are you guys providing transportation? Because we always provided the transportation.
North
North
Colony
Colony's
owes us.
invoice, yeah.
Oh,
So when they go,
So when they go to-
yeah, when they go to queues and stuff like that.
So is there an opportunity to go back to the table with these three other teams that were merged, or schools that were merged with, to say, is there any way we can make this more reasonable as per player cost instead of a per district cost, or is that, like, we already made the merger, this is already the way it's gonna be, and there's really nothing we can do about
I
it?
mean, we can certainly ask, and we've anecdotally had just conversations in the past. They're the schools, so they send us the contract, but I mean, what's the worst they can say, no?
I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to deny any student the opportunity to play any sport they would want to, but there's tons of sports that we don't offer. We don't have a flag football team for girls. Major schools in our district are picking them up. We don't have one. So there's lots of sports that we don't offer that some kids are stuck doing a club team or something like that. So, I mean, from a budgetary perspective, we have to kind of keep that in mind. So I think it would be worth having a conversation to say,
Yeah.
this is really not equitable when you have 12 kids on the team and we have one and we're paying the same amount of money. Can we make this a per player cost to say, hey, a hockey team is, yeah, made up number, I know nothing about hockey, 20 kids, each kid is gonna cost this much money for the ice time. And if your kid has 12 of those 20, you're picking up the majority of the cost. Just seems to make sense.
And the worst thing they could say is no, they're not interested
Yeah,
in that,
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess.
I think it's reasonable to ask.
Yeah,
Sure we can.
Totally.
Oh, I had one more question.
Okay.
Hang on, I wrote it down. So I know some other districts, and this might be like a staffing issue, that it wouldn't be possible for a strength and conditioning program. They allow varsity athletes, if you're on a varsity team for any season, that your gym, instead of being in a general PE course, you can have advanced gym, and it's a strength and conditioning program within your school day. So it eliminates that, oh, I can't stay after school, or I don't have to run home, or whatever. Is that something you could ever integrate or consider, or is it a staffing thing?
It could be a staffing thing, but I'm looking at Eric Olson, do you remember this coming up about 15 years ago, 14 years ago? And I remember there was a lot of pushback from maybe our faculty and staff, or it may have been the varsity coaches, and I can't remember. It has come up before, I mean, it's always I think you can talk about anything at any point. Kids have asked over the years. But I don't remember exactly what the rationale
I don't
was.
remember any pushback from teachers or staff. I do know people are just sort of divided on this idea, not based on any lines or whatever, but I know when I went to high school, if I played a sport, I didn't have gym class during that season. And yeah, you could work out or you could, do other things.
My kids are at two different schools, and one of my children, you have to be a varsity athlete to have that option, which some people get upset about, because they're like, well, I don't play a school sport, but I'd still like to participate in strength and conditioning rather than a general PE. And then the other school, anybody can participate. It ends up being most of the athletes who do it, but there are some kids who are not on any of the athletic teams who join in. I just didn't know if it would be something that then it eliminates some of the concerns that we
Yeah.
had with the strength and conditioning program. That some of the PE teachers were like, okay, I could get on board with this and help put together a program and have it be their PE course.
Well, I think Mrs. Lanu is going to be meeting with PE staff in December, for just, maybe that's just a topic that you just talked about.
Absolutely can be. I have experience with that in my previous district as it being part of the PE program for our upper level students. And, it's something that we can bring to the conversation when I meet with the department and see as far as staffing and what we're able to offer. And of course, the class sizes for a situation like that would have to be smaller in order for it to be safely done. So it's definitely part of the conversation. And like Chad mentioned in his presentation, the focus and the increase in numbers for lifelong sports, that's one of the things that students, I think, are more interested in now too, is general physical fitness and being able to go to a gym. And I know a lot of our students probably do that on their own time, belong to a gym and do that. And so if we're able to look at that and it's feasible for us, it would be something good for us to offer. Like you said, not just for athletes, for the students who are just concerned about their physical fitness and their physical well-being. to be able to learn how to exercise properly and do that properly so that it's something they can do throughout their life and maintain their health.
Jenna, at the other schools, is it a specific PE teacher that's?
Yeah, there's one
It has
PE
more
teacher who
experience.
said that. I mean, I don't know that they had any special certification in like lifting or anything like that, but it's one person who
I mean, I
was.
would think it would have to be someone who knew
Yeah,
how to.
yeah, if we like how to
So-
safely
We wanna
make sure they're.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Chad? All right, great. Thank you
Cool.
very, very much.
Thank you.
All right,
Admin.
yes.
We'll start
So
with
on time.
the secondary team.
Yes, I finally get to go before Kelly, which I'm real proud of. Mine is definitely going to be brief. I think the first thing I'd like to start with is talking just about academic accountability. We did reinstate that this year, and on October 17th, a message was distributed to parents, guardians, students about the policy. We had 31 students across grades 6 through 11 who were identified as academically ineligible, and that means that they were failing 2 or more classes. The way that it broke down, we had 0 students in grade 12 who were academically ineligible, and so I'm pleased to say that, by the time we get to that age, it's a yes, exactly, be proud. And per our guidelines, our students are required to meet with either their team leaders or their school counselors to develop a plan for their academic recovery, to regain eligibility and participate in recent events, specifically homecoming activities or the middle school social. Students needed to successfully complete their assigned grade recovery packets. We're pleased to report that all identified students did successfully complete their required work in order to participate in these events. The first marking period is concluding tomorrow, and that's really where we're going to see the results from that grading cycle, and it's going to provide us a better opportunity to gauge the efficacy of the academic ineligibility protocol, having that first marking period grade under our belts. Sometimes students may not take the progress reports as seriously as they do the final marking period averages, and that's where we will see the real work for recovery when it comes to that. And we see that in the first marking period, and that improves as we go throughout the year once they realize what the recovery part entails, more likely to keep up as we go. The upcoming winter sports season will also provide a significant motivator for our students who want to be able to participate in their athletic seasons and in spectating on with those sports. They'll more likely to maintain their academic standing and make those efforts in order to do that. Let's see. As far as things going on in our building, we made our big move into the offices, which is great. I've been kind of camping out in there for a while, and it's really nice to have both Ms. Norton and Ms. McEwen have moved into the space, and the rest of our main office staff will move in as soon as that front addition is done and the dust settles, literally. Then we'll be able to move the rest of the main office staff into that office. And we've had such positive reactions from both students and staff when they're able to come in and see that. It really is an inviting space, and I think it's going to be a really productive space for us to be in with our students, with our staff. So I'm very pleased to say that. Start of winter sports is happening. We've had open gyms. Students coming in now that we're in the end of daylight savings time, coming in the dark and putting their work in and grinding for their sports, and I'm very pleased to see that. I experienced my first Tamarack Pep Rally, and I will say this in all honesty. It is the first pep rally in my entire career, there have been many, that I enjoyed thoroughly. It was an absolute blast. And just to see the level of school spirit and energy from both students and the teachers, Mr. Ferlito, did he leave? Oh man, I was looking right at him. but just to see that from our students and our staff was really wonderful. And, you know, it's one of those things that I think that I know now, like, really makes Tamarack special. And it was very nice to see. And I actually look forward to the next one. Let's see, we are going to have a presentation on November 25th. It's called Hang Up and Drive presentation. It's gonna be for grades 9 through 12. And that's JC Good and Steve Johnson. They're public speakers and advocates for phone-free roads. Since JC's miraculous, and I'm just reading from their press release here, since JC's miraculous recovery from the 2008 crash that claimed the lives of both of her parents and left her partially paralyzed, a crash that was caused by a distracted driver, they've worked tirelessly to educate the country and world about the dangers of phone use behind the wheel. Their goal is to help end an epidemic that shatters thousands of American lives every year. So they're going to come in. Deputy Loper is helping to facilitate them coming in and speaking to grades 9 through 12. We thought even if you're not driving, you may be in the car with friends or family, and we want them to know the importance of distraction-free driving. So I am very excited to be able to bring that to our students. Regents Week is coming up in January. We are starting to plan for that. Our entire junior class takes the 11th grade ELA exam during January Regents. We also have some students who are working to make up credit from Regents or increase their grades from Regents past. I'm so proud of the work that our teachers are doing with our students. Ms. Norton and I have the chance to go into classrooms often and see what's taking place with our students. And both of us, when we were talking about this meeting tonight, we're like, next time we have to bring printers, because it really is wonderful and to see all of the different ways that our teachers make learning accessible to our students. I was able to attend the PTSA dinner at Franklin Terrace, and that was a wonderful experience to be able to spend time with our PTSA board members who work tirelessly to support the programming in our schools. And I did really appreciate that invitation, and it was a very nice experience. Upcoming events, we have our winter concerts coming up. Those dates I know are out there, and I'll be sure to include that in my newsletter. And that's really all I have. Mr. McCormick really stole the show tonight, along with Mr. Minor. That's all I have for our tonight. But yeah, just I'm very happy with how things are going in the building and how our students are doing. And I did leave several things out because I don't want to step on our student board members' toes, because I know Alina is going to be speaking about several of the wonderful things that have happened so far this year, and I want to give her that spotlight.
Mrs. Honorato.
Good evening, everyone. October is a very busy month, but filled with a lot of fun, and some highlights of that month were an author visit, thanks to our school librarian and the PTSA, and their coordinated effort to bring in Eric Litwin to visit our students and conduct an assembly. He's the author of the Pete the Cat books. I don't know if you're familiar, but they're a very popular book series for young children. We had our indoor live streamed Halloween costume parade hosted by our gracious principal and assistant principal in the secondary building. That was really a lot of fun. Our kids loved it. I really think the secondary students loved it. Got a kick out of it. Yeah. The staff really got into it. It was something we wouldn't have planned, I think, otherwise if the construction wasn't happening, but definitely something we're just going to keep in mind as
I've already got a plan in works on how we're going to make it happen again.
Yeah,
and still be able to do the
right. And the weather wasn't really a factor. It was just like it was really great. So thank you. And definitely open to that idea or some version of that again in the future. And our elementary Halloween dance was brought back by the PTSA this year. That I attended that. I thought it was a lot of fun, very positive. Students and their parents just seemed really festive but happy, and it was really very, very well organized thanks to our PTSA. but just a lot of fun. It was great. Some instructional things going on. We're in the thick of it with our math program pilots. As I've mentioned before, we're going to be installing a new program to implement our math curriculum starting next year because our current one is being sunset. Our teachers have had the opportunity to meet. We're conducting the pilots to just kind of put their heads together and start sharing some feedback from their experiences. What I am learning from the feedback I've received overall and from some classroom observations that I've done in pilot classrooms, each program we're piloting is, I think, a real significant uptick in rigor from our current math program, which certainly isn't a bad thing. But I think one thing we'll have to really think about when we roll this out initially, K-5, is for students who haven't had that instruction in the pilot classroom, what additional scaffolds might we have to build in or kind of prepare for just to kind of minimize the pain points and get everybody kind of chugging along with this new framework of instruction for math. So exciting things happening there. And then certainly with year 2 of our new ELA program and then our new math program to look forward to, there will certainly be ripple effects in looking at maybe our grade reporting and our report card design and pulling some committees together there to make sure everything is aligned, parent-friendly, and really meaningful, that the way we're assessing students and grading students is really aligned with what they're learning and how they're being instructed. So things way down the road to look forward to there. I've had the benefit of participating along with some faculty and staff in recent trainings. One was coordinated by Ms. Fremont, so I won't go into too much detail there, on de-escalation for students in crisis. I learned a tremendous amount in that training. And last week, and then just today, I was at a 2-part training with a couple general education teachers to learn more about the functional behavior assessment and behavior intervention plan process, which in some cases for students with disabilities are a part of like the regulatory requirements that we have to think about when we're programming for them. But it's also a helpful tool in general to build into our system over time to proactively support students that might have really kind of intensive behavior needs, and some of our lower tier interventions don't seem to be impacting, or reactionary discipline or exclusionary discipline isn't really changing for the child. And with that, we're also going to have an initial meeting with an elementary discipline committee comprised of faculty and staff that represent different areas of education in our building, just to kind of come together, look at our existing policies, take a look at the systems that have kind of been installed over the past few years in terms of basic behavior expectations for classrooms and the school at the elementary level, basic approaches to tiered interventions, how we kind of characterize behaviors at the elementary level, which are minor versus major, how we incorporate that in the handbook, communicate that to parents. We've installed practices for documenting problem behaviors and also reporting them to the office if appropriate, tracking those behaviors. And now, since we have a little system in place, it's time to take a closer look at it and see where we can improve our system to sustain things moving forward. And with that, I think those are the.
Major or minor out there.
That sounds happy, so
Yeah,
I'm
it is.
going to classify that as minor. A minor classroom.
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Fremont.
The one thing to note is we were lucky enough to have Northern Rivers come in and provide us with a de-escalation training that paired with Handle with Care, which really has a major focus on de-escalation training and just learning how to support our students who might have some social, emotional, or behavioral challenges they're experiencing. And then, with a minor focus on if it escalates to where the student might be in imminent danger or someone else, then we are trained how to do a therapeutic hold, but that is the very last resort. And then how to document that to maintain safety of our students and our staff. But that big piece, it was a day and a training that took place over a full day and a half day with about 8 of our staff, mainly from the elementary, but some participants from the high school. But really that focus on de-escalation and really helping us learn how to support students who are in crisis and keep them safe.
Thank you. Good evening. I have a few nice things to mention. The homecoming and the pep rally were both very well organized. Everyone looked amazing. I was blown away by a lot of the dresses that I saw. Very nice. NHS did a very good job setting that up, setting the homecoming up. It was very beautiful. They had like a nice little arch. Everybody was taking pictures, recording thing. The survey that Gianna Shea and Miss Norton and I made, we made it, it's about students' experiences, and it should be out sometime this week. And it'll be very nice to go through those responses, and because we worked pretty hard on the survey, so we're excited to see what's going to come out of that. As mentioned, the elementary parade was very much appreciated. I heard a lot of good things about it and a lot of laughs, so we were discussing making that maybe permanent in some way, shape, or form in the future. Today was the Senior Citizen Tunes and Treats event, where the band kids, I heard they were nervous, but they were very excited to play for the senior citizens in the auditorium. And then there was a nice little treat session in the gym, which was very nice to see. I saw lots of smiles and people with their grandparents. It was very nice. The NJHS induction ceremony was recently, which is very promising, and I love to see new faces, And there was a Questar luncheon today, which reminded me of what we did in the gym, which was for veterans, I believe, yes. And that's it. That's all I've got.
All right. Next item on our agenda is item 5, which is board discussion. Just want to pause and let everyone think about something. We're an hour and a half into our board meeting, but we've heard about all the work that OM does every single day, our athletic program, updates from the administrators about all these activities. I don't know about anyone else, but it makes me feel incredibly proud to hear all that. I love the fact that the secondary school, seeing the kids come in through the parade, that's character building and the community and the world we're in. It's really, really important. So I do want to applaud everyone in this room. That's impressive. With that, we'll try to keep this part a little bit lighter, shorter. Board reports. I know, John, do you want to provide a little update on the NISBA board meeting?
Yeah.
Or annual meeting?
Yeah. So I'll try to keep it brief. I went to the NISBA conference with Mr. Metzger, Dr. Maloney. It was incredibly informative. I wasn't sure what I was going to get out of it, but it was really great. I went to the law seminar, which was the day before. And what was really interesting about the law seminar was, really one of the things that they laid out is this is what you are allowed to do as a board, and this is what you're not allowed to do. So a lot of people, myself included, even with my dad having been on the board, I always just think, well, you really have a lot that you can do. While we're kind of tasked with putting together a budget every year, which is probably one of the hardest things that you have to do, there's not really a lot that a board has power to do, beyond the fiduciary role. So it was just really kind of interesting to have these lawyers that are specialized in education law kind of go through some of the cases and say, this is where a board acted, and then the court struck them down and said, you did a bad thing. So it was really eye-opening and informative. And, I'll certainly look to go back next year and take part in the law seminar again, because there's a lot of upcoming court cases that could bring a lot to us. I went to the state aid breakout, and I shared with Dr. Maloney. I think I came out of that more confused than when I went in. on how the state aid formulas are done per district. Certainly, it was a great first blush experience for me to kind of, start to recognize the language, but definitely it was very informative and very confusing, which I think even the presenters were a little confused by it as they tried to put it out to us. And then, one of the last things that I'll mention is the social emotional learning aspect of it. That's to me, it's such a buzzword, but really what I learned from one of the keynote speakers was that what social emotional learning really is, it's citizenship. And that's something that I never knew or put together. So for those that are watching this online or those that are in this room, when you hear the buzzword social emotional learning and you're like, it sounds like such a touchy feely word, it really is teaching citizenship. And I think that that's something that I really took from this, that I think is really important. It's about how are you going to be a productive member of society. So I thought that was something that for me was really insightful. And then the last thing that I'm going to put in an email, I just haven't gotten to yet, to Dr. Maloney to kind of put out to the faculty. The closing keynote was, what's his name here? Steve Hartman, who does the On the Road segments with CBS. And he was incredible. And during COVID, one of the things that he did with his children was he started like a podcast that he called Kindness 101. And they work with schools and educators through a Facebook page to kind of share these stories that you can share in your classrooms and that you can kind of build into your curriculum. And again, we know we've gone over time tonight, so I don't want to spend much more time on this, but I will just share briefly with all of you. As many of you know, I was in education and I worked in a few different school districts, this being one of them. One of the districts that I worked in said, one of the things I did because of my experience at Tamarack and my experience at a couple other school districts was you take some time to building character and you take some time to get to know the students and build relationships. One of the school districts I was in was, no, you teach content bell to bell. That's what you do. That's what you're here for. And I think we're very fortunate that this district in particular stresses character. And I just think that's so important. And I wanted to share that I think the teachers here will be able to kind of look at this Kindness 101 and use it. And I just think we're very fortunate to be in a district like this where everybody in the administration is so on the same page. That's important. And a school board that backs them on that. So those were some of the biggest things that I took from the conference. And as I shared in an email to the board, it was very insightful and very, very useful. The keynotes were amazing. The breakouts were kind of drier, but very informative and important, which is why I attended them. It's in Buffalo next year. As many board members as can attend, I think they should. I got a lot out of it, and I thought it was great. So I'll wrap it up with that.
Thank you. After John had the fun at the conference, we had our annual meeting, which Mr. Olson, governance in action, ton of fun, 7-hour meeting of listening to various positions and whether or not the voting members from every school district support it or not. Mercifully, they kept comments down to, I think, a minute each for 5 minutes, hold something for each one. But again, it did go 7 hours. My only reason I bring this up is one thing I will want to do next year, or suggest that we kind of incorporate as a standard practice, is to bring those positions to the board to review ahead of time, and making sure that how I vote, or whoever that voting member is in line with how the board has agreed to vote on that item. I would say generally, unsurprisingly, I think really, you have your districts like ours, who seem very aligned, and there are some other districts in Long Island that feel slightly different. But again, it was a governance in action. Again, maybe one of your students can sit in on the 7-hour meeting for double extra credit. I don't know. All right, so we'll keep moving. Brings us to section 6, special actions. we have a need for a motion for the board to approve the district-wide cardiac arrest AED plan and district-wide safety plans. I need a motion to bring that up for approval. Janine and Jenna, go with the J's. Angelina, any comments?
This is a requirement. It really doesn't change our practices, but I did put out a call to all faculty and staff if additional people wanted to be trained in how to do it. The AEDs are very, very self-directed, but some people did say, hey, I don't know how to use it and I'd like to. So that's a good positive outcome.
Assuming no further discussion, all in favor of approving the plan, say aye. Ayes have it, so they'll be approved. Brings us to section 7, policy, nothing up for action today. We do have the revised public participation policy. Wasn't sure if anyone had a chance to review or had any concerns with what was suggested by the attorney. Okay. All right, so we will bring that one to a vote.
You're voting on that.
We can do it now? Oh, it's a second reading. I stand corrected. All right, I need a motion for us to approve the public participation. All right, John and Kevin, since we didn't have any discussion before, I will just ask all in favor, say aye. All right, the ayes have it. Go forward. Woo-hoo.
The physical examination, which is 7.2, that is just a change by the state, the grades in which, so the policy hasn't changed substantially, just the grade levels that are required. So this is the first reading of those changes.
So that one I would just suggest, take your time, review, and we'll vote on it at the next meeting. All right, that brings us to section 8. Need a motion to approve the recommendations. So 8.1 through 8.3, or can we cover them all in consent?
Mhm.
All right, 8.1 through 8.3. Have a motion? All right, John and Dina, any comments?
My comment will just be that it aligns with Stephanie's presentation about just some of the expenses that are associated with students with disabilities. And I hate saying that because it always feels bad, because every child deserves what they need. However, when you're looking at these budgets, you'll often see something under this category and just the prices. And you can see how it could be very, very volatile depending on what you need. So for example, 8.3, that's a student that's in an outside placement, and that outside placement can't give the child the services that they need. So we're kind of backfilling it because the child is our obligation. So just an example of just the little tricky things.
All in favor of approving the recommendations of 8.1 through 8.3? Ayes have it. All right, that brings us to section 9, recommendations from the superintendent as far as personnel, 9.1 through 9.13. Need a motion to approve those recommendations. Jenna and Tammy. Angelina, any discussions here?
Yeah, just a few things. One, we'd like to welcome our new treasurer. 9.10 is, her name is Jennifer Anderson. She's going to be working in a part-time capacity, and she's been training with Wayne, who many of you have heard from for many years. I'd also like to welcome back Bob Augstell. Bob was with us last year and the first month of this year, and gratefully he is back, and hopefully he'll be with us by December 8th or 9th approximately. And we'd also like to thank Larissa for her service. Sad to see her go, but glad she's able to find a position that more aligns with her family. So she's been great here. So you can vote no on that one. And I encourage you to do so.
Does that work that way? Anyway, all right.
But
all in favor of approving 9.1 through 9.13? Yes. Got ayes have it. All right, that brings us to section 10, superintendent's recommendations for business and finance, 10.1 through 10.5. Need a motion to approve those recommendations. Tammy, Kevin, any discussion this point here?
I'll just note that 10.2, 10.3 are change orders related to the project. And I have to compliment our construction management services for really keeping the change orders down. When you're working with many contractors, they can just do whatever they want. And this group really, really works to minimize that. And I'm greatly appreciative. And then as Kevin mentioned in his presentation, there's so many different maintenance agreements that we have, and Stark Tech is just an example of one of those.
Any questions, discussion from the board? All right, all in favor? All right, ayes have it. And I believe that brings us to section 11, public comment. I do encourage everyone to read the guidelines that we have up on the screen now. To try to make sure that you keep your comments, polite and considerate. But Maureen, do we have?
I'm Sam Cukin. I'm a senior here at Tamarack. So I just have one question. I know, Dr. Maloney, you had mentioned that on Monday, you were going to have a meeting about AI. Just one question. Are there any plans for teachers in teaching students how to use AI properly?
So yes and no. There's no plan yet, but we'll be getting to that point. Yep, that's kind of the process. The professional development that our faculty and staff are getting on Monday is just to learn about AI. Some people know nothing, some people use a lot, and then we're going to have a committee, and that'll be part of the process.
Owen?
Hi, my name is Owen Glenn. I'm a student here at Tamarack, and I live up on 8 Winfield Lane. And I was wondering why averages weren't weighted, especially when it comes to stuff like the top 10 and AP and college courses, stuff like that. It might go down in hopes of getting to the top 10.
Yep. It started well before me, so this has gone on for, I don't know the number of years, but that's just not been a part of our practice and our policy, similar to not having a valedictorian and salutatorian and just honoring the top 10. And really, it's not been something that comes up often. So I don't know why it initially started. So my answer is it's just kind of always been that way. I know that's not the best answer, but it's been quite a while.
I know it came up 2 years ago.
Yeah.
A parent had brought it
Yep.
to the board. We had a lot of discussion about it. There was some faculty input about it. Well, that's the line to say.
Yeah, I would say this though, and I think this is important to note, thank you for jogging my memory. If a student ever needed for a scholarship or a college, the guidance counselors always, the school counselors always work to make sure the child has whatever they need. And a student's transcript is compared apples to apples, meaning if a school waits and our school doesn't wait, they're treated as such. So you're not at a disadvantage in that way. Hope that helps.
Andrew?
Good evening, I'm Andrew Jufon, I'm a senior here. With SNAP being reduced, is there anything the school can do to help the population that is in need?
Great question. What is going to be out is some social media and some emails with some resources for families. We've gotten some things from state ed and some communication from local, our local food pantries. Hopefully it won't go on too much longer, but as we get more information, we'll be sharing that out. And then certainly our school community adopts families for Thanksgiving and makes sure the kids have what they need. But you're right. It's not great. And the backpack program, yeah.
Gianna?
Hi, I'm Gianna, I'm a student here. So referring to what Owen was talking about for our valedictorian and salutatorian, I know in previous years we have done it before. I was just curious as we have MVP and all rookie of the year and most valuable players for sports and athletics, and we just don't have the same level of competition for academics. I was curious as to why we don't.
Like I said, I don't know why we don't, so I can't really answer that, but it does come up every once in a while. And I think it gets talked about. So I don't really have a good answer for either because I don't know the origin of that. I don't know if anybody else does that could.
Angelina, who would? No.
I thought it was Kevin.
No, it's me.
Oh.
Go, you go.
Okay. I know that I came from Shenandoah when I went to high school, and the amount of pressure that is put on the, point, ... whatever, it literally puts a lot of undue pressure on the students, on friendships. People would get very cutthroat when you're looking at a valedictorian and a salutatorian. And I know that was a discussion that was brought to our attention and that we did go over. That's what stuck out in my mind the most, was just, the pure ugliness that it came to. It just didn't sometimes seem worth it.
Part of that was also weighted and non-weighted, and the controversy of the salutatorian and the valedictorian and what classes they took. And did one deserve it more, even though one might have a slightly higher grade. So there's a lot of controversy amongst that. So
I would just add, I agree. I came from a place that did weighted and did have a really stiff competition, and the mental health of the students that were at the top was horrible. And to see how the camaraderie amongst the students that are at the top of the class, and that there's not a winner and a loser, everybody just does the best they can, it's a palpable difference. So I don't have the exact answer, but I could just say, I think that's been the reason that it's sustained over time.
And my question was just going to be, which body group ultimately decides, that position? Is that?
I think that might be code of conduct, because I don't think it's in board policy, although board policy could do it, but the ranking and that, I think that might be in the student handbook.
Okay. Thank you. Good question.
Angeline, the only thing I wanted to mention before we wrap, so to talk about AI a little bit, one of the things at the school boards conference that they talked about, the state ed folks that came in, is that AI is coming at us fast, and state ed is looking to get out in front of it. So there's a lot of districts that have not even started the AI discussion yet. And I think we're in a good place here, because we are starting the AI discussion, but we're not jumping the gun on it as some other districts have done, and they actually got some media coverage about it. So I think we're in a very good place that we are starting this discussion. We're starting to talk about it, because state ed said it is going to be coming, it's coming. So I think we're in a good place that we're starting to have those discussions.
What's that?
I agree.
I have no one else.
No one else? All right. So thank you again for coming to the meeting. Meeting is adjourned. I do
You
need a motion. I know, I was.
Sorry. Got ahead of
I
myself.
know. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting. Dina and Tammy, all in favor? Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
If any board members want to go to that AI presentation on Monday, you're welcome to come to it. I know it's in the middle.
Real proud. Real proud.
Setting the bar high, Mr. Riley.